I said that I prayed. I'm out for now. Sorry. If you need me, I'll be in my chambers. That they can do that, and knowing that they're not going to face any penalty from the voters as a result of it. That they can just say, yes, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to get on my knees briefly. Is that enough? I did 60 seconds. I did 90 seconds. Is that enough? Can we move on until the next shooting? Until I then can pretend to care again? And nobody cares. They don't even give the most money to the NRA, right? They don't. They give a lot to a lot. They give a lot to a lot, but there are other businesses, there are other trade associations, that's what they are, who give more money, and yet their power is seemingly, at least at times, unsurpassed. I mean, Donald Trump said today, I'll jump ahead a little bit here, but Donald Trump said, or tweeted, because he didn't say anything, he only tweeted that, hey, I'm going to meet with the NRA and maybe we'll talk about banning assault weapons, people on the no-fly list. And the reaction from people on the right was as if he had said, I'd like to repeal the Second Amendment. Yeah. Or I'm thinking about setting off a nuke in D.C. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But the other circle back to that point is that these guns and this issue is so much more public all the time. You know, the Petroleum Association, Trade Association, could be giving a ton of money to Congress to try and get the number of light ends and bitumen that they put into asphalt there, and we're not going to sit here and care about that, but they still have to get a lot of money in order to do that. They have a lot of money. But the impact of guns on society is so disproportionate to the impact of so many of the other things. And when you see what the stranglehold that even at that level of giving the NRA has, it's even more upsetting. And this is also what's strange is all these politicians, they're opportunists, right? So you'd think common sense would say that there's one Republican who could say, hey, you know what? And I'm actually, because Ben is telling me to write more, I'm going to write about it. I was in the middle of writing about this. Do you think there'd be one Republican who's out there saying, hey, actually the Democrats are right about this? That he could have all kinds of currency, get all kinds of momentum, and also, hey, all right, so be afraid you might not win your seat, but your bravado might win you your seat too. And might win you a seat or get you a different kind of power after you lost your seat. Exactly. But, you know, I mean, I want to get to the story, John, but in 15 seconds, they abdicated any chance of having those people. I mean, and it took them 30 years, but they're gone. They literally drove them out of the party, because if you think that the Democrats had a fair point, or forget Democrats, that sensible Americans had a fair point on that one issue, then you also thought it about global warming, because you have a degree of sanity and appreciation for facts on the ground. But those people, the Jim Jeffords and the Lincoln Chafees of the world, and even to some extent the guys like Richard Lugar, who were certainly more conservative, they couldn't, there was no spot for them. But somebody like Ben Sass, super conservative from Nebraska, super different than all the other Republicans. I think that this would be, he's the kind of senator that could say, hey, you know what, background check? Let's see if this antagonism, justified antagonism for Donald Trump, brings out some degree of fighting spirit on other issues. Right. Well, it's not on guns, because
many Republicans in the wake of the Orlando nightclub shooting have been claiming to fully support and be filled with empathy for the LGBT community, including lots of politicians that have never in the past had a nice word to say about the people in that community or the community at large. Certainly doesn't support them having even basic human rights, it seems at times. And Anderson Cooper was talking with one of those Republicans in Florida, the Attorney General. Watch.
I saw you the other day saying that anyone who attacks the LGBT community, our LGBT community, you said, will be gone after with the full extent of the law.
Exactly right.
I talked to a lot of gay and lesbian people here yesterday who are not fans of yours, and who said that they thought you were being a hypocrite, that you, for years, have fought, you've basically gone after gay people, said that in court that gay people, simply by fighting for marriage equality, were trying to do harm to the people of Florida, to induce public harm, I believe was the term you used in court. Do you really think you're a champion of the gay community?
Attorney General, I put my hand on the Bible and was sworn to uphold the Constitution of the state of Florida. That's not a law. That was voted into our state constitution by the voters of Florida. That's what I was defending. It had nothing to do, I've never said I don't like gay people.
I love that response. Like, I don't care. We don't care if you like the person. If you take away their rights and then say, but you're a nice person, you can't have these, but you're a nice person, I like you, that's not like, oh, okay, you win some, you lose some. And they think that if they claim that as Christians they love these people while they demonize them and while they deny them access to the same rights that other people have, that somehow that's balanced out, and it's not, and they need to understand that.
The first part of her argument, could be defended. The first part merely that the Constitution required her, the state Constitution, that the voters voted on, required her to work against gay marriage in Florida. But of course, that doesn't account for what Cooper later hammers her on, which is the language. There's a lot of ways to do that. And by the way, as we learned when there were laws in the United States, that the Justice Department under Eric Holder, who, again, there's a difference of opinion sometimes here about how effective he was, but there were more than a few occasions where they were like, yeah, we're not going to defend the law. Like the world is changing, and we get that, and we're gonna be on the other side, or we're gonna stay silent. But her language was obviously hostile to gays because Pam Bondi is deceitful and dishonest about that position on gays, and when it was convenient to hammer gays, she did it, as Cooper points out.
Yeah, and look, you could step down from your position if you're being asked to defend something that's in the Constitution, but that you actually disagree with, as this great guardian of the LGBT community, as you are claiming yourself to be, not in words, but by putting yourself in front of their hospital and saying that you're the one who's going to help them. And I understand that it's super inconvenient to have to drop out of your position simply because you're upholding an incredibly immoral policy. But then you lose the ability to say that you're the defender of this group.
But you can to some extent, you can have your cake and eat it too. We've seen
where
this cake, it's right out there. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll get Michael some cake.
Thanks, though.
You can do it because you could simply say, as we've seen, this law is wrong, but it's the state law, and so I'm going to send my assistant Hayes G in to argue this case. But the fact is, I don't think it's the right law, and I don't think it's right for gay people. But we don't have a choice right now. That's my position. That's it. And then
she's not even really saying that.
No, she didn't do that.
She's saying it's just the law. She's not saying it's wrong.
Yeah, right. And so, but if you're to believe the first part of it, that she was like, "Hey, man, it's the law. What do you want me to do?" You don't have to make the case to reporters. Like that doesn't. You have to make the case in court. That's exactly it. And you're also an elected official, so you can simply go out there and go, "I hate this law, but we have to defend it." That would have made a difference.
But I think a lot of our commentary, will make more sense once we see a little bit more of the interaction between Cooper and Bondi. So why don't we roll the second video?
That's ridiculous.
But do you worry about using language accusing gay people of trying to do harm to the people of Florida when doesn't that send a message to some people who might have bad ideas in mind?
Anderson, I don't believe gay people could do harm to the state of Florida.
But you argued that in court.
My lawyer argued a case defending what the Supreme Court allowed the voters to put in our state constitution.
But you were arguing that gay marriage, if there was gay marriage, if there was same-sex marriage, that would do harm to the people of Florida, Florida society.
That it was constitutional to put that in the Constitution.
Are you saying you did not believe it would do harm to Florida?
Of course not. Of course not. Gay people. No, I've never said that. Those words have never come out of my mouth.
But that is specifically what you were arguing in court.
No. What we argued was it was in the Constitution of the state of Florida.
No, that's not what they argued. In fact, Bondi's office argued that forcing Florida to recognize out-of-state same-sex marriage back in 2014 would, and this is a quote, impose significant public harm. And Bondi made her fight against gay marriage a key issue in her re-election campaign.
Yeah, it's important to point out that it would be interesting to know what Bondi's two ex-husbands have to say about this. She's twice divorced, and I know maybe it's because so many gay people got married, they put public harm onto her marriage.
Maybe she was right.
It's weird that that her marriages and her instability in marriage didn't affect anybody else.
Maybe she's an expert as a result of that.
Yeah, twice.
At some point there, you felt like, we've been watching these great, or at least I have, and I'm sure millions of others have as well, some of these great Muhammad Ali fights. And at some point, you were like, "Oh, somebody help Pam Bondi get her out of there. Throw in the towel. This fight is over." when she's like, no, I didn't.
We'll wait until you see this third part, because the way it ends especially, Cooper, I'll criticize him afterward. He does a good job in this video.
You know what today's about? Human beings. Today's about victims.
It's about gay and lesbian victims.
It sure is. LGBT victims.
I'm just wondering, is it hypocritical to portray yourself as a champion of the gay community when I'm just reflecting what a lot of gay people have told me they don't see you as
Anderson, I'm not portraying myself as anything other than trying to help human beings who have lost their lives, who are right behind us right now in hospital beds.
It's just that I will say I have never really seen you talk about gays and lesbians and transgender people in a positive way until now. I read your Twitter history for the last year, and I saw you tweeting about National Dog Month and National Shelter Dog Appreciation Day or Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. It is Gay Pride Month. You've never even tweeted about Gay Pride Month. I mean,
well, actually, if you look at my website now, we have hands clasped together, all different colored rainbow hands.
So you just put that up now?
Yeah, I did after this horrible tragedy. Absolutely.
That's not a strong defense, then.
She should. I mean, you heard her defense in this situation should have been to stick to her guns. This is a tragedy.
They do,
right? Gentlemen, this is a terrible human loss, but I was against gay marriage.
Yeah, but you can't really do. I mean,
you can.
It's difficult
that's
to do that,
right? But that's what got her elected, and that's the only way she's going to stay elected is by saying what we know.
But she knows that looks terrible, which is good. There's a little bit of
why does it look terrible now, right? She didn't know it looked terrible then when it also looked terrible. It just looks tragic now. And one of the most poignant things that Anderson Cooper said during that whole interaction was when he said, listen, because the laws changed, because you lost people who are spouses of and related to and dating people who were killed were able to get information on them that they wouldn't have been entitled to at that point, and
he was
he said that.
He also he made he also showed how you can interrupt and challenge without sort of without seeming to shout somebody down.
Yeah, persistence doesn't have to be being an ass.
Yeah, just crush your arms. But I don't think so.
To be fair, I think that he was able to do that against her because she was on the defensive. Like a Trump cuts in and won't stop talking, which makes it difficult. And look, we've criticized, I think, very reasonably, Anderson Cooper for the way that he's run some of the more consequential debates and forums and town halls and things like that. His question was good here. I would say the most important thing, and maybe this is unfair, and we're going to have a video of her saying she was sandbagged or whatever. It's one thing to say, did you defend this law back then? It's another to just ask her right now, do you support gay marriage? Do you want gay people to have the same exact rights when it comes to marriage and visitation rights and adoption and all of that? Because she is claiming right now, as she keeps talking about the victims, like just so transparently saying, you can't question me, there's people bleeding in there. But no, you're standing in front of the building, you chose to because you want the cred for standing up for these people, but you don't stand up for these people when they haven't just been shot. And some would make the case that those portions of their life where they're not bleeding are also important to them and their families too.
Yeah, no, look, it's right. I mean, she was weakened, and he went after her. I don't have the same objections that you do because I think the standard was a little different for when we objected to Anderson Cooper's questioning of Donald Trump. But I think that and others, but everything is different now, a little bit with the media. Like, for whatever reason, maybe because it pivoted to a general election and it didn't make as much sense to demonize Trump when the audience for these things were people who basically agreed with that, and he was in a race with people who agreed with almost all that he had said. Because there's no question that seemingly in the last 2 weeks, much of the press, incredibly late, dangerously late, because the guy might get elected president, has found a little bit of footing for how to talk about Donald Trump.
Yeah, and also, I absolutely think so. I mean, they've found that footing. It's also a two-person race, like you said. I mean, it's a different question you're going to ask in a two-person race. You're also going to have other people. You're going to have more media covering both, the general election than you did the primary. So, but there's actually been a different tone. There's also a lot more opposition research coming from the Democrats, and that will happen all year. We
can get some from the Russians now too.
Totally. No, right, of course. But I mean, John Kasich had X amount of dollars to spend on Oppo research against Donald Trump. There are millions and millions of dollars that the Democrats have, and the media
equals $25.
X equals $25, right? Yeah, that's true, $8. But that does make a difference because the press is going to cover the research that's let go, and that's just one other thing. This is also advocacy journalism a little bit that Anderson Cooper is doing here. We all know Anderson Cooper is an out journalist who cares about these issues, and his going after Pam Bondi is something he felt clearly responsible to be doing, both as a journalist and
well, I hope that I basically think Anderson Cooper comes out on the good side in the television world, and
for sure
he's pretty good, and I hope and I hope that he remembers that this is like that tone can be used for just about every issue. Totally, and he was good at it. So I hope to see more.
Okay, really fast, it just occurred to me when you were talking about the media changeover on Trump. I saw a great headline on The Onion, and it was UN warns Trump could be 7 months away from acquiring nukes. I think that's awesome. So even The Onion is changing in these dire times. Okay, let's turn to something slightly different. Yeah, okay. I'll remind myself.
What we're turning to?
No, exactly what. Not important. It's the first video, actually. Yeah. It's been good to have Michael back.
Yeah.
Sucks we won't see him for a while.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Anyway. Okay, this is serious information, okay? I can't be blushing during. Okay. For some, the Orlando nightclub shooting has been an opportunity to reflect in a very shallow way on what they think about the LGBT politicians. It's been an opportunity for something a little bit deeper, an actual change in how they view this community. And you're going to see an example of that in this video.
I'm here because yesterday morning, 49 Americans were brutally murdered. And it made me sad. And it made me angry. And it made me confused. I'm here because those 49 people were gay. I'm here because it shouldn't matter. But I'm here because it does. Now, I'm not here to tell you that I know exactly what you are going through. I'm not here to tell you that I feel your pain. I don't pretend to know the depths of what you are feeling right now. But I do know what it feels like to be scared. And I do know what it feels like to be sad. And I do know what it feels like to be rejected. And more importantly, I know what it feels like to be loved. I grew up in a small town. I went to a small rural high school. There were some kids in my class that were different than me, and sometimes I wasn't kind to them. I didn't know it at the time, but I know now that they were gay. I regret not treating them with the kindness, dignity, and respect, the love that they deserve. For that, I sincerely and humbly apologize. Over the intervening years, my heart has changed. It has changed because of you. And so may we leave today with a resolve to be a little kinder. May we try to listen more and talk less. May we forgive someone that has wronged us. And perhaps, most importantly, try to love someone that is different from us. For my straight friends, might I suggest starting with someone who is gay?
That video was of Spencer Cox, who is the lieutenant governor of Utah, a Republican. Now, I don't know anything about his politics personally. I have to imagine that that is a very conservative area to be an elected...
Lieutenant governor of Utah is conservative.
Very conservative. And expected to be, I would imagine. But that was... assuming it was 100% genuine, which I believe it was, considering the tone of voice and the way it was delivered, was exactly what we want to hear. And imagine a day in which every elected Republican gave a speech like that.
You know, you talk about Paul Ryan doing nothing in thoughts and prayers. This is not thoughts and prayers. That was something else. It's not legislation. I don't know what the legislation is. I mean, obviously, we're talking about some degree of gun control, but even the gun control that we're talking about is not going to make a gigantic dent in the number of available guns.
Certainly not immediately, and it's not even gun control. It's controlling people who get guns.
So I think this is incredibly important that the language and the tone that people use, that politicians use, matters enormously, and it helps set the agenda. That was great. That was a 12 on a 1 to 10. That was, the mere calling.
If he had a head, it would have been a 13.
Oh, yeah, that's right. To do it without a head
is unbelievable.
It's unconfirmed that he does in fact have a head.
Just to be able to call yourself out as being cruel to kids who are different in high school, which we know certainly happened a ton in the 70s and 80s, and obviously before that, it still happens now. But it's changing. It's literally changing. That message has been going out, and now it has to change. That takes some courage, and I don't doubt that it was genuine, because there was no reason to do it unless you were going to be genuine. That's what it was. So God bless Spencer Cox. That was great. That's a lesson for Republicans in Washington to listen.
And some Democrats. I was going to say exactly what you said, actually, about the how it's changed and how regret and saying, oh, I wish that I had done things differently when I was younger. I also, it's a personal thing, that when I was in Utah covering the Utah caucuses there, I did a story about the Mormon and the Muslims, and how the Mormons embrace the Muslims. They think they're the same, that they're persecuted for religious reasons in this country. It was the most surprising conversation I had with both the imam and the leader in the LDS church there. Spencer Cox, the lieutenant governor, is Mormon. The notion that Mormons see people who are persecuted in this country in a different light is a testament. I don't know very much about religion, and Mormons I've always had a difficult time, particularly with the recent history of their establishment. But the message that I saw in Utah changed my opinion. If you think Spencer Cox's opinion has changed my opinion about the way that they carry themselves there. So it's not surprising to me. Also, it's why you see Donald Trump doing so poorly in such a conservative state.
Yeah, well, now the Mormon money, powerful Mormon money, came in to help get Prop 8 defeated or passed. I can't even remember which one was the wrong side anymore in that.
The anti-gay
marriage. So it's it hasn't been fully widespread. That's a really interesting point. I come from half of my family's Mormon. My mother left the church, but she was born and raised a Mormon, and all her relatives are Mormon. The current generation is not in any way.
Because I only know you as a Zionist.
They don't practice, but but my aunt did, and they were literally the kindest people I've met. That side of my family was way nicer than the Vanquilets.
And the few out practicing Mormon people I've met in my life have been scarily nice.
Yeah, they're so I'm not surprised. So that strain of kindness and looking out for other people who've had disadvantages makes some sense. That said, the leadership of the church for, until the 1940s at least, I don't have it in front of me, didn't allow black priests.
Until 1978.
Until 1978, right.
And it didn't desegregate.
Right, it was hostile to blacks throughout the 1940s and 50s and didn't allow. So,
didn't they baptize dead Jewish individuals after they had died?
There was some of that, but that just seems so silly. It's amusing.
They'll allow it.
But the notion that, it's funny to hear them to say that they reach in, they identify with people who are persecuted. I don't know, during the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, if only could have found a group that was persecuted in the United States. I can do it. There was one. You said turn on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the most recent polling that Jimmy alluded to yesterday, and I saw it today, was it was specifically talking about how Muslim Americans approve gay marriage at rates like 20 points. Check the numbers to make sure, 20 points higher than most of the religions, including Mormons, which was surprising to me. But anyway, we do have to go to our first break. Before we go to the break, I do want to alert you to an opportunity that you're going to have in the very near future to see members of TYT in person in Pasadena at Politicon. And so that's going to be happening at the Pasadena Convention Center on Saturday, June 25th. And Sunday, June 26th, which is not this weekend, but it is next weekend. And you can still get tickets. In fact, you can get them for 25% off by using the promo code TYT at politicon.com. And so what are we going to be doing there? Well, we're going to have 2 panels and a meet and greet where fans are going to be able to meet Cenk. We don't have the times for that meet and greet just yet. But at 12:30 on Saturday, Anna is going to be on the Bernie panel with Eugene Robinson, Bill Burton, Paul Begala, Hal Sparks, and Anna. It's going to be a talk about Bernie Sanders and his supporters and how the primary went. And on Sunday at 4:30, Cenk Uygur is going to debate Dinesh D'Souza. That's going to be productive.
Yeah.
But it will be entertaining. Last year, his debate with Ann Coulter was exciting.
It was, and it packed the house, and I'm sure that'll happen
Isn't
again.
he in jail?
No, he's out of jail.
He's out of jail.
Yeah. By the way,
he's free.
Most importantly, go to Pasadena, go to Politicon. I will not be there. But go to Pasadena, I would love to go. Otherwise,
you only want to go for what you're about to say.
Everybody who goes to Pasadena to see Politicon needs to go to California and Lake and eat a meal at Pie and Burger.
Sounds delicious.
I have never given more important. Michael agrees. I've never given more important advice.
I think I took you to your first.
You did. You took me to Pie and Burger.
And here's the thing. Also, you're going to go there. You're going to have a Pie and Burger and pie, and you're going to see on the television there the Turner Classic Movies on. You're going to say, he just sent me here to watch Turner Classic Movies.
That one.
Turner Classic Movies been on at the Pie and Burger since before Ben Mankiewicz, graced their hallways, and so it's just a coincidence.
It's a wild coincidence. Yeah. It's a good coincidence, but it is the best cheeseburger I have ever had. The toast, if you go in the morning, unbelievable. The coffee's great.
Save it for Yelp.
It's O'Lallyberry season 2, so they have O'Lallyberry pies. Well, you will know on Sunday next week.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Don't cut this out of the video that we post on YouTube.
Okay.
Pie and Burger.
We're going to see in just a couple minutes. Tweet us, guys. We'll read some when we come back.
So Cody Foster is directing a movie that's coming out, Money Monster. George Clooney's in it, Julia Roberts in it, Cenk Uygur's in it. What is this?
You're not really in it. You're not actually playing a role in it. You're just kind of like sticking around, aren't you?
What is this? This is not bullshit. This is not like the last Jodie Foster movie I was in.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Like you're in the background, like.
I gotta tell you this, because on shoptyt.com, there's a shirt thrown into the story where I'm in the background in Contact with Matthew McConaughey's in the foreground, and then it says Thug Life.
Really?
Yes.
I haven't seen that shirt. That's fucking awesome.
No, I'm one of the news guys that's amazed by what's happening. You see that in the movies all the time, but normally they'd go to the CNN or MSNBC hosts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll do that in the movie as well, but they're going to come to TYT.
That's cool.
No, that's not cool. That's super cool. We're going to get drunk and go to that bar over there with, he became like Buzz immediately. And then she's leaving. All right, see you later, Jody.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. Are you Bart? Are you going to see her later? I have 5 minutes. Explain the Facebook. Go.
back to the first hour of the Young Turks, everybody. Ben and Michael and John. I don't think we have a name for this trio. It happens so rarely.
Yeah.
It used to happen, though.
It used to happen. We had a good run.
Yeah.
Johnny Pie and Friends.
Well, Johnny Pie, right? Johnny Pie and the Burger.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Pie
The
burger.
second hour will be a banana pie hour. Though.
Yeah.
We do know that. Okay, so before we get back to the news, I already told you the Politicon stuff. Go promo code TYT. You can see everybody. Blah blah blah. Member number 1474. I want to recognize you, Teresa Vreeland. Very cool last name. Member number 1475, Emil Nilsson. Thank you for being members and being in the top 2,000, which is getting closer and closer, making you the 10%.
Top 1,500. Come on. Don't knock them.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Also true. Mine also true.
It's true.
Let's see. I want to read a couple of your tweets. I liked Sarah Rivka Bass says, "Go Chris, go! Proud to be from Connecticut" in the hashtags. And let's see. Justin says this is talking about Pam Bondi, Attorney General of Florida. So she's using the "All Lives Matter" reply in a new context, which I like that he pressured her. This isn't just about humans; it's about LGBT humans.
Yeah.
We didn't specifically.
We didn't play because we ran out of time and we'd spent a lot, but we didn't play her. She lashed back on talk radio today, suggesting that Anderson Cooper shouldn't have asked those questions because she was led to believe it was going to be about donations?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, and she said, "How could you ask me that at that time and place when there are people in the hospital?
They're going to be in the hospital for months.
Yeah, some could die.
And
that doesn't get you off the hook.
But by the way, I mean, just the medical progress and say a quick word about first of all, what we can do now medically is astounding, and what what first responders do in situations like this. I mean, 25 years ago, many more people would have died. Many more. You see how many soldiers whose lives we saved. But CNN ran a chilling story early on the next day when there were still all the bodies there and not everyone. CNN ran a chilling story the next day where there were still bodies in Pulse. And of course, they're doing they're doing the police work that they need to make sure that the case is handled properly, and the phones are ringing. The phones of the victims are ringing, and and they got to listen to that, and they know what's happening, and they know why those calls are coming in. That's a horrible thing to have to go through that. So, but the notion that again this sort of standard right wing line that we can't talk about the thing that could change the yes, what we do after Pulse, we politicize it because politics is how we get stuff done in this country, and we don't want it to happen again. Yeah. Like that's the best way you can honor the victims is not have any more victims.
That argument always. I mean, what is that? At 9/11, the towers come down, the Pentagon is bombed. Another place. We can't talk about politics.
Right.
We turn to the president and say, no, it's too early to talk about politics.
Also, I don't pay attention on a week by week basis to how much the Senate gets done, but I know that you pay more attention. So the week before the shooting, how much progress did we get on gun control legislation?
Also, here we go. It's June. We're doing the show right now. It's June 14th. June 17th, I believe, is the anniversary of the shooting in Charles. That's been a year, so we'll use that one.
Yeah.
If we can talk about that one to promote gun control.
It's almost the 2.5-year anniversary of Newtown. That was yesterday. So
and so
not to mention the 42 other shootings that happened on the same day as the Pulse shooting.
You're the Attorney General of Florida, and you're on CNN. Guess what? This is the big leagues. You want to go on CNN, you get to be asked anything. That's how it works.
Exactly. 1 in 3 people in the United States know someone who has been shot, according to Senator Murphy on the floor right now. 1 in 3 Americans know someone who's been shot. That's unbelievable.
I don't believe that I do.
Yeah, neither do I. Well, I don't know.
I just prove it right here.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump back into the reactions to Orlando. Donald Trump's response to the Pulse nightclub shooting included subtle accusations that President Obama knew something about what was going on and might be working for the terrorists rather than for the United States. And he also renewed his calls for an entire ban on Muslims entering the country until he changes his mind about it. And I was worried when he did that this would be, as he said in response to a tweet congratulating him, thanks for the congrats, but I don't want it, that this could be a moment where he'll become more popular in the country. But thankfully, that's not the way it shook out. 51% disapprove of the presumptive Republican presidential nominee's response to the massacre, while just a quarter of Americans, 25%, approve. I don't know why they had to repeat that. I know what it is. More than 6 in 10 Americans, 62%, think the U.S. should not temporarily ban Muslims from entering the country, while 31% said the U.S. should. which is amazing because we covered in all of those Republican state primaries, they'd always run the numbers on the Muslim ban, and it was incredibly popular, varied in popularity, but always very popular. And it's so easy to listen to the fear-mongering. Basically, the politicians doing the work of ISIS. They want to scare you, and Republican politicians want to do that job for them. And to say, okay, we'll ban it. And for 2/3 of the country nearly to say no after all this, we're not going to, maybe that's a very low bar to have for your fellow countrymen. But it is nice to know that they don't like they don't like Trump's response to this, and they certainly don't like the policies he's advocating for.
Yeah, obviously this is good news, a 62-31 number, though. That's still the third, though, who do approve of it. And, look, there's a good bet that there'll be another attack, either by a lone wolf who claims allegiance to ISIS, or at some point by someone who will track who was actually funded, supported, where there's a more direct link. Obviously, that could happen at any moment.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really critical that all of us here at TYT and politicians and everybody who sort of has a public voice continue to make the point again and again and again why that ban is wrong. Like, we can't think, the worst thing we could do, especially with Donald Trump, a guy who can who has proven a remarkable ability to change the media dynamic like that. We can't let go. Like, we have to keep pointing out why that ban is wrong, why it's un-American, why, if you don't want to get into that sort of highfalutin talk about what America stands for, then a more tangible talk of, hey, this puts us at greater jeopardy. Like, there's a relationship between talking this way about Muslims and angering people in the Muslim world that might be more, disaffected people who might then be more susceptible to reaching out by Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Yeah. So we got to keep making those points, and we can't let go, at a bare minimum for 5 months, but probably forever, because there will be another demagogue, another Joe McCarthy, like Donald Trump, who will come, because he has certainly made it clear that you can find a lot of success. You may not get elected president, but you can find a lot of success with this sort of, by appealing to the worst instincts of millions and millions of Americans.
Yeah. And only at different times in history. Sometimes, those things cycle out. And the notion that could happen in every election cycle, first of all, you have to have the charisma to do it, and then it has to be the right time. And I think that the party that he was trying to appeal to is in such a state of flux that it worked out.
It does. I fear, and I hope you're more right than I am, but I fear that we entered into that's true. That we just entered into a time, given we thought we were in this terrible 24-hour news cycle 15 years ago, but it turns out it's worse. Yeah. It's a 1-hour news cycle, and that there will always be now an outlet for people to demagogue. Yeah. And again, the first part is undeniably true. You have to have the charisma to get it. But I suspect that we've perhaps entered into a period where that's always going to appeal to some people, and that's always going to get coverage.
Yeah, no, thankfully, he had been in his address that he gave right after the shooting, multiple completely factually inaccurate statements. He kept saying that the guy was born in Afghanistan, that he was an Afghan.
No, he said he was born in Afghan.
In Afghan, yes.
He was an Afghan born in Afghan.
He was born in a rug somewhere.
It was a dog.
He was a dog. He's a dog. He also keeps saying that there's no process to screen or vet refugees. So I did a final judgment yesterday where I started to lose my voice, literally just listing the steps. It's so extensive.
It's like the hardest country in the world.
Yeah. Right. I used the term laughably rigorous, and people said it's not laughable, it's serious, and I respond, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
It's very long, basically. Now, there are some other aspects to this aside from just people's response to his response to Orlando. He tweeted out this, which is shaking things up a little bit. I will be meeting with the NRA, who has endorsed me, about not allowing people on the terrorist watch list or the no-fly list to buy guns. Which, if he would actually do that, and if he sticks with that for more than 4 or 5 minutes, would be a good change to the rules. And it's something that many Republicans are not willing to get on board with. Sad. Which is sad. Yeah, that's the one tweet that doesn't end with a one-word exclamation. Now, in response to that, he's been attacked by many conservatives. I'm not going to show you a bunch. I'll show you one tweet. Surprised that an authoritarian strongman is eager to take guns away without due process. That guy might not actually be a Trump supporter. But Eric Erickson has attacked him, and he's been receiving a lot of tweets saying that he is turning his back on conservatives. even though
Eric Erickson is, or that Trump is?
That Trump is. Eric Erickson was saying that. Even though many Republicans also think that you should not allow people on the terrorist watch list.
Let's read the Eric Erickson quote, because what we've entered into is a staggering. This year, Trump got the NRA endorsement, and he just threw them under the bus. Thundered Erickson at the Resurgent. That's where he was writing. Banning people on the terror watch list and no-fly list are terrible ideas because the Second Amendment is a fundamental right. Now that is it's a theoretical argument that others are making as well, because of course if you're on the terrorist watch list you haven't been convicted of anything, right? And so how could you take away a basic constitutional right? The flip side is that the alternative is that we put people on the terrorist watch list and you're going to let them go out and buy an AR-15.
Which just happened. The guy who had been on the terrorist watch list.
It's insane, and the notion that we even entertain that argument is insane. I'm for banning assault weapons, and more so, as I suspect you guys might be, and way more so than we did during the 10 years when they were banned, because you can still kind of buy an AR-15 depending on modifications.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be able to own any of them, ever, and I don't know why we can't try that, because we can't, he didn't, here's what was the guy's name? Mateen? We're
not really saying.
I know, I think that's horseshit, but okay, his name is out there. It's part of covering the news. But the good news is that we're all in agreement here because I don't understand.
Yeah, that's the traditional part of covering the news. I think traditional media typically so.
I just don't think it's who cares.
Well, he's amongst the shooters that has idolized past shooters.
Is he?
I try to avoid.
So the
and now this is just all I can think of is that you've spoiled my new issue of the Resurgent.
But here's what he didn't have: grenades.
Yes.
Which would have allowed
an RPG.
He didn't have an RPG. He didn't have a bazooka. He didn't have an anti-aircraft gun. He didn't have a
SAM.
He didn't have a surface-to-air missile. He didn't have a tank. To handle the
Bradley fighting vehicle.
Yeah, but a grenade. Here's what could have helped him fight the cops off: grenades.
Yeah,
grenades.
D-Day boats. The
landing craft. I don't know. I think it's an acronym, actually.
No, it's not. It's something. Both the name, both the Emerson.
Anyway,
so we have it. So the notion that these guys are going to be allowed, if they're on the no-fly. So here's what we can do: we can have an appellate process, right? We can say you're on the no-fly list, and here's the process you go through to prove that you either shouldn't be on the no-fly list or that you should be able to buy a gun, even though you're on the no-fly list. I'm all for that. We'll pay some extra judges, and we'll take some money from the federal coffers and get that done. But if you're on the no-fly list, you can't have a gun, because here's what other right you're denied: the right to fly. And I realize that wasn't the Constitution, because we couldn't fly in 1789.
Yeah, so we also couldn't fire that many bullets per minute.
Right.
If you were good, you could fire one bullet per minute. If you were skilled.
It's so crazy that even Donald Trump is against it.
Theoretically.
I mean, today.
But understand that it's a little bit hard to actually believe him, considering how often he contradicts himself, and the fact that the NRA is almost certainly not going to budge. And because not that long ago, in the Republican primary, he said this.
Are there any circumstances that you think we should be limiting gun sales of any kind in America?
No. I am a Second Amendment person. If we had guns in California on the other side, where the bullets went in the different direction, you wouldn't have 14 or 15 people dead right now.
The bullets were going in.
Why does he like...
That's in the wake of a shooting right there. He said, no, under no circumstances should we limit gun sales in any way. So, I mean, the fact that AR-15s domestically have to be semi-automatic, but you can't sell fully automatic ones, that's a limitation that we currently have. And so, according to him, and theoretically maybe Maria Bartiromo's, we shouldn't be limiting them in even that way. Why shouldn't you be able to have fully autoed akimbo AK-47s?
You can, and again, whatever you buy, I mean, now you can buy things in the same gun store that allow you, I think, to get, I don't know the number exactly, but up to like 45 shots out of it.
But yeah, the super high capacity.
Why is it that the Second Amendment, that he puts his arm around it? He loves this Second Amendment in the same week that he wants Muslims out of here, hates the First Amendment, wants the Washington Post not to cover it, hates the First Amendment. Why does the Second Amendment win and not the First Amendment?
Yeah,
you would think that just by the ordering, the founders preferred the first.
Right.
But we already have gun control. By the very nature, arm control, because it doesn't say guns, right? Arms.
Yeah.
And arms are grenades, and we don't allow them to have grenades. And man, if you think if this guy could have bought grenades, he wouldn't have?
Oh, no, he tried to buy body armor, Type 3 body armor. He would have bought the most deadly weapon that he could have. And you know what he did in the end? He bought the most deadly weapon that he can have. And right now, that is a gun like an AR-15. In this particular case, the 6-hour MCX, I don't give a fuck what particular model it is. 6-hour even markets it as being remarkably similar to the M15, or the AR-15, which is based off the M16. And the lower receiver is compatible with the AR-15, so stop tweeting the absolute bullshit. You're not proving any point that you think you're proving. But anyway, really fast, I want to run through some additional numbers, because that's Donald Trump's response. Now, Donald Trump is much hated, and so you might think maybe people just disapprove of it because he's hated. But we also know that Hillary Clinton's unfavorable numbers are incredibly high, and yet the response that Americans had to her response, which called for gun control, was more positive, not glowing. It was 36% positive to 34% negative, with fully 30% saying they didn't know about her response, which might have something to do with the fact that the media was going to cover Trump about 10 times as much as they were.
And I got it. Some people would say negative things about Trump no matter what, too, but there are 34% of the people who, when you say, what was Hillary Clinton's response to the Christmas tree lighting, would be like, I hated it.
Hated it.
Yeah.
No way to light a tree. And overall, one of the reasons that maybe, but probably not, Donald Trump isn't this introspective, maybe one of the reasons he's changing this particular position, maybe it's because he doesn't remember what his position is.
No, that's what
it could be that he gets how poorly he is doing recently, how much people hate him. The Washington Post ABC News poll recently, this was released today, finds 70% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Trump, including some 56% who feel strongly unfavorable. That is a bad position going into an election. It's a 10-point shift in just 1 month, when he was already 60% unfavorable.
I like the way they worded it. When Trump had hit just 60% unfavorable. Just 3/5 of the man, Mike. And then, just very quickly, Higgins vote was what I was looking for. Blake Deering and Gabby Merida said it. You said it, but you looked it up. I think Blake knew right off the bat.
That is not what I was thinking of, so I don't get any credit whatsoever.
We don't know that Blake didn't look it up.
We don't know that Gabby, who came in just after Blake, didn't look it up.
I mean, you were looking it up, but you couldn't find it.
I was looking it up, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I know. It took me my votes D-Day. Votes DDA.
You're better at this. I wait for the paper to come out tomorrow.
By the way, do you want to run through your...
Yeah, I do. I just want to say that what's significant about that number for Trump, I mean, it's a 60%. It was 60 or 70? 70%.
Disapproval was 70% unfavorable, 56% strongly.
It was an incredibly satisfying week that ended like 3 or 4 days ago, because it was really the first time since Donald Trump went down the escalator and went out of frame. My favorite presidential arrival ever.
Maybe Bush on the carrier.
So
not good. Jeb Bush's favorite arrival, I can tell you that.
Hey, I just want to announce that I'm running for president. That he had that horrible week. Everything went wrong. He stepped on the jobs numbers. Michael and I were talking about this yesterday. He made all the coverage about the judge, the Indiana-born judge, the Indiana-born Mexican judge. And everything he did went wrong. Everything.
He kept making it worse.
And it happened in the same week when Hillary Clinton finally got some good news. She got the endorsements from Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama. All these things happened at this, and it was Trump's ability to control the news cycle continued, but he didn't handle it. And so, my fear for this election was and remains that there's a wild card to him that you don't quite know what's going to happen, and his ability to dominate the news. But the media developed a little bit of a backbone. Clinton's, it appears, early stages thanks to Elizabeth Warren and thanks to Hillary's speech too, have a plan for how to deal with him the way Republicans did not. But it was his worst week ever. After
the abortion comments were bad, but this was worse.
This was worse because, again, his charm sort of enabled him to power through that, and that happened at a time when the people running against him were like, well, we largely agree. Like they couldn't take a strong stand against it. They could say, he probably went a little too far. But don't get me wrong,
he's playing to a different audience, and they were not talking about the same issues that he has to talk about now. And when he has to talk about these issues, he becomes unpresidential in the eyes of 70% of Americans. That's the biggest part of it. If you talk about, against Barack Obama, against Hillary Clinton, as much as you want, when you're in the Republican caucuses in Iowa, they want to hear that, and they want to hear it from Donald Trump. Now it's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, in this highly partisan day and age. Barack Obama now has had like 2 months straight of approval ratings over 50%.
He's at 54 now.
It's in one poll, yeah, but he's consistently he got a +5 favorability rating. And Hillary's numbers in that ABC poll were bad. It hit 70. Hers are at 55. And again, I'm doing what I condemn others for. I'm taking one poll and comparing it to another poll. But she was at 61 in an earlier poll 2 weeks ago. I think it's inevitable that in a week where she gets endorsed by the popular president and a popular progressive, that it's going to help a little bit. And here's what's going to help a lot. Presumably it'll happen, but when it happens, when Bernie Sanders does endorse her, not all of his supporters will come aboard, but some who are unquestionably disapproving of her now will be like, okay, not super excited, but I'm no longer...
It's not guaranteed that he will.
No, it's not guaranteed.
But what he has said makes it seem like there's a very good chance that will
happen. And there's also going to be a vice presidential candidate who's going to hit Donald Trump hard and prop up Hillary Clinton, whoever that will be, presumably somebody who appeals more to Bernie Sanders voters, or will appeal more to Bernie Sanders voters than Hillary Clinton herself does. So I think that's true.
Yeah, and I'd be very surprised if that.
Of course, I'd be more than surprised.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if it didn't come up.
Yeah, I said I've been listening to what he said, and he keeps stressing defeating Trump.
They met 2 hours,
including last night.
We didn't mention it. They met for 2 hours last night.
Yeah, which, by the way, I could have been there.
I'm sure it was.
How tense that must have been,
or not. I don't know.
No, I think it was.
They described it as tense but productive.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so let's do this last. We gotta do this 2.5 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes or something, just because we've already gone over it in the second hour. So this is gonna start with Ben for the last story.
So many people were struck by Donald Trump at a rally last night when he saw fit to do what George Bush and Dick Cheney never saw fit to do, and Trump has hinted at this before. That we should be stealing Iraqi oil. That we would have actually, remember the line with blood for oil? Trump was like, apparently heard that, and he was like, that's right. We're going to take their oil. And then, while making his argument that we should have taken the Iraqi oil, he decided to throw U.S. servicemen in Iraq under the Trump bus.
Remember this. When we got out, we should have taken the oil. I'll never forget some of the pundits. Most of them, they don't have the brains they were born with. They said, they're talking about a sovereign country, Iraq. Crooked as hell. How about bringing baskets of money, millions and millions of dollars, and handing it out? I want to know, who are the soldiers that had that job? Because I think they're living very well right now, whoever they may be.
He says he's never had a drink.
Yeah, he sounds drunk. I mean, the notion, and some of the writing about it, where they're like, as Politico put it, Trump has painted himself as a champion of soldiers and veterans, and it's unusual for American politicians on the campaign trail to call out members of the military. Yeah, for stealing money in Iraq. Yeah, I mean, but of course, it's not unusual for Donald Trump. It was part of this one insane thing after another, but it largely began with. I like people who don't get captured. And John McCain, who was, as we talk about a lot, there were moments in this man's life where we thought, this could be a real statesman. He's never going to be president, but his obit is going to talk about how he was a man of great courage, and that it won't happen. And if anyone now who should come out against this, it should be McCain, who goes, yeah, you know what? I'm still pissed about the other thing, and I'm done with this guy. And I'm done with.
And Trump said this. This was not the first time he even said this. He said this in New Hampshire in September
about soldiers stealing the money.
Soldiers stealing the money. But it made it seem more like he was talking about Iraqi soldiers when he said it in Keene, New Hampshire, on the
his campaign. He said he was talking about Iraqi soldiers, but the context of us taking the Iraqi oil doesn't make it sound like that at all. New Republic, whatever the logic of Trump's statement, it's very unusual for a presidential candidate to malign war veterans. Yes, it is.
I love the whatever the logic. Yeah, you're gonna have to look pretty hard to find it. But I heard it as being about the Iraqi soldiers. And look, I love to bash Trump. People say that I'm completely irrational when it comes to it, but
the Iraqi soldiers didn't hand out the money. We handed out the money.
Didn't we give it to
No, we handed out the money.
This is what he said on September 30th in Keene, New Hampshire. When Obama says we're leaving Iraq on a certain date, these Iraqi soldiers that comprised ISIS, they didn't want to fight for Iraq because Iraq was a corrupt government. $50 million in cash. I want to know, who were the soldiers that are carrying cash of $50 million cash? How stupid are we? I wouldn't be surprised if the cash didn't get there. I have to be honest.
Oh, no, but
so
that
get there. That means that is right. That's spelled CACHE here, but yes, that does apply.
He's talking about U.S. And by the way,
I don't think here's what the word CACHE.
And here's what
he said that's right. This makes me think Ben's more right.
He's talking about U.S. soldiers, and by the way, some of our soldiers, there was corruption. Some of them did take money.
Yeah.
There's no question. But you don't impugn all the soldiers, one who were in charge of the money, let alone all soldiers there. But Trump has this ability to speak to veterans like that because he so bravely served in Vietnam.
Well, but you have to remember that this is also a guy who raises large amounts of money for the soldiers and then gives it to them months later once he's called out for not doing so.
5 deferments in Vietnam. And a bullshit story about how, I remember watching my number came in and it was a high number and I was so relieved and I was a warden. Okay, that's just his memory playing with him. Maybe he wasn't at Wharton when his number came up like that. But the whole thing is nonsense. That was his final deferment that he's talking about when his number came in. He'd already gotten 4 deferments, and he'd already been classified 1Y, which is what we now know as 4F, because of a foot. Because of his left foot was too big.
And it's ridiculous. Why lie about your foot when you could just tell us that they found that your hands weren't big enough to grasp a rifle barrel, and no one would doubt you?
He didn't want to serve in Vietnam because he didn't want to get shot. And
President Obama's grandfather served in World War II, like your grandfather did, like your father did. There's 6,000 Muslims in the U.S. military right now, approximately, and not one single member of the Trump family has ever served in the armed forces.
Ever. But he's a big
not
friend.
the U.S. Armed Forces.
Maybe Germany. Big friend of vets. Eager to, big friend to the military and a friend of vets. They love him. It's great.
Okay, well, thank you, Ben and Michael, for helping me out with the first hour. When we come back, Ben is going to be sticking around, and Experience is going to be joining us for the Banana Pie Hour. We've got a combination of extremely serious and extremely fun topics for you, so don't go anywhere, and tweet us at #TYT Live what you think about the topics we've been talking about so far this hour. We'll see you in just a few.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy! United! We are! Too strong! There's thousands of volunteers. You need to be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com. All right, Jordan, tell us where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. Jordan Shank, reporting for the Young Turks.
The Young Turks online.
You're the third reporter at the half-cup.
Tell me none of them were getting a haircut while talking to you.
Listen,
I'm the first.
All right, you're beautiful.
Is Hillary being sincere when she says $12 is enough for the minimum wage?
Anybody who tells you $12 is enough for the minimum wage is not only not being sincere, they don't give a damn about you.
No bank is too big to fail, and no executive too powerful to jail.
She is pretty dead set on protecting big banks.
We're tired of money in politics, and we're tired of the corruption.
You think it would really be better for liberals if all the money from the banks went to Republicans as opposed to just 80%? When do we actually decide to make a change as a people?
Bernie Sanders already said, he wants a revolution. He wants a revolution. Well, I don't really want a revolution. I want a precedent.
You been a Ted Cruz fan all this time?
No, I've been a Liberty fan all this time.
Go, Trump!
It was a raucous event, if you've ever seen one.
I don't want to be recorded.
He's not going to tell us anything, so.
He reminds me of like your drunk uncle at a wedding who gets up and starts talking and just loves the crowd.
They're trying to ethnically cleanse white people?
Well, sure they are. Weren't you white guy?
In Dixieland, I'll take my stand.
Great movie or the greatest movie ever made in the history of cinema?
I
loved this. No, that was great. Oh, damn.
I was just fully downloaded every way.
What the hell was that? It was insane. Cut. Shut up, movie.
It just failed on like every single level.
Michael Bay.
It's so rapid fire.
Terrifying. Carbon. Nuts. That was just ridiculous.
Was it written by ABBA?
He's pulling strings like Yo-Yo Ma.
You'll pay for the whole scene?
Yeah.
Patience. It's a virtue. They think you can put me in a box. But you can't stifle a revolution. Cenk Uygur, you started something, an idea. The truth and honesty matter above all else. And the people love you for it. And for a while, so did I. We could have stood united, a political force of reckoning upon our foes, the hypocrites, the phonies, the unjust. But you put me in this box.
Cenk. No.
You began without me. You began without me. God as my witness. I will be the one to finish it.
Hey guys, welcome back to TYT. Ben, John, and myself are about to do the second hour, which will be great. Should I read some TYT? Why don't you read TYT Live, since I have no idea what you guys talked about in the last segment?
It's always fun for you to try to figure it out from the tweets.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I think there was a birthday tweet I wanted to... It's been deleted. It's somebody's birthday, and they were very excited about TYT. Sorry about that. But happy birthday to whoever you are. Statistically, it's probably about 100 of you. But I'm talking about the one who tweeted. Okay, let's see. Michael Gibbs says, that's good news. They're talking about the response that Americans had to Trump's response to Orlando. 62% of Americans are smart enough to know the Orlando shooter was not an immigrant. It seems non-complicated. He was born in America.
Yeah, and his dad, yes, his dad was allowed to come here, which is what Trump pivoted to. Well, if we hadn't let his parents in, he wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. Right. His parents came in because our arch enemy invaded his country, and then we funded the rebels, who was now, in many cases, the genesis of people fighting against us, at least in Afghanistan.
It's messy.
Right, and so, yeah, I think we probably had some obligation to let in the people who lives were at stake because of the Soviet invasion.
You know what's really interesting? Right. Whenever these stories come up, and you have, look, I don't think that this is a clear-cut case of like radical Islam. I think there are other factors at play, like his bigotry or whatever, which, by the way, he was a closeted gay guy. So, he was
just casing the joint
for
3 years, twice a month.
So,
on Grindr.
It's funny because whenever we talk about, like, radical Muslims and their hostility toward the U.S., like, people think that it's all in a bubble. Like, why do they hate us so much? Like, they think it comes from nowhere. Like, they're jealous of our McDonald's or something. Like, no. They hate us because of U.S. foreign policy.
Yeah.
I'm not excusing their behavior. They're terrorists, and they should be dealt with as such. But at the same time, this isn't all in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, my God, out of nowhere, these Muslims decide they hate America.
Yeah. No, that's a big conversation. But, yeah, I agree with you. And obviously, we have our role in the world has influenced it. There is also a role in the world that, we didn't create madrasas where kids get taught at an early age to hate Jews and Americans. That's not all they
We can only speak for us, not for Obama.
Right. So, I mean, it's there are multiple, it's a complicated situation and a complicated world.
That we need Trump to adjudicate.
No, we just need to start using better language, and then
I think so.
Then everybody will come around.
Let's see, Andy also tweeted, if people didn't write so oddly 300 years ago, interpreting the Second Amendment would be easier. Rewrite it. Yes. I love that when they loved to pretend that the growth of technology, that guns back then were like literally like you stuffed like metal and then you stuffed explosive stuff in some combination. Like the fact that they don't think, like if you could literally do, like in Fallout, you don't play Fallout, but there's people who can shout and make magic happen. If you could do that, we would restrict your rights to free speech. If you could shout out fire.
I'm working on an opinion piece right now. Hopefully I'll publish it by tonight if I get a chance. But the title of it is, Let's Stop Pretending Like We Care About the Constitution. Because we don't. The only time anyone pretends like they're some sort of constitutional scholar is when we talk about gun control, right? No one gave a shit when Edward Snowden talked about how the government is indiscriminately spying on every American without a warrant, without probable cause.
Yeah.
No one cares. Fourth Amendment specifically states it's much more easier to interpret than the Second Amendment, if you ask me. You can't be spying on Americans, unreasonable searches and seizures with no probable cause, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening right now, and everyone's like, whatever, man, national security, we gotta stay safe, right? But when it comes to the Second Amendment, no, everyone gets guns, even those on the terrorist watch list, because national security. What? Like, it just, none of it makes sense. It's so, you don't care, like, stop lying to yourself. You don't care about the Constitution.
I agree.
Okay?
Check out Ross' story for that article later on.
When the Second Amendment was written, in between times you pulled the trigger, this is fact, you could poach an egg. Hang on a sec.
But now you can cook bacon
I need more
on the end of your gun.
Don't advance. I'm loading my gun again. Ooh, this is going to be good. Don't overcook it, Larry. Okay. Yeah, come on.
That's amazing.
Anyway.
Okay.
Might not be effective.
All right, let's do some stories. You guys ready?
I am.
All right, we start with an update. I'm super ready. All right. Prosecutors in Northern California are fighting against Judge Aaron Persky, the person who sentenced a convicted rapist, Brock Turner, to a measly 6 months in jail after he was caught having sex with an unconscious woman behind a dumpster. Now, Judge Aaron Persky is the subject of a petition to basically get him out of the position that he's in right now, but also the prosecutors in this case are arguing that he should not be the judge who oversees a case involving sexual assault. Let me give you the details on that. One of the prosecutors from Santa Clara County, it's actually the district attorney by the name of Jeff Rosen, says, "We lack confidence that Judge Aaron Persky can fairly participate in this upcoming hearing in which a male nurse sexually assaulted a female patient that was under anesthesia." A juror in the Stanford University sexual assault case wrote to Judge Persky saying he was disappointed and vehemently disagreed with the June 2nd sentence. He even wrote, "I expected that this case would serve as a very strong deterrent to on-campus assaults, but with the ridiculously lenient sentence, I am afraid that it makes a mockery of the whole trial." The juror wrote, concluding the letter with "shame on you."
Yeah, shame on him. He's been shamed by the entire country. We have to have some expectations of the judgment of judges. I mean, it's in the title. Like, you have to. There are people who are way too harsh, which is a big problem, and it's a problem I think that we talk more about as a culture. But there are people who are way too lenient, and I mean, can you imagine if you were part of the family of the woman in the case that is going to be adjudicated?
You'd be very fearful,
no
right?
Expectation that there would be actual justice, and why should you?
So just to be clear, he was taken off that sexual assault case.
Yeah.
But then that raises the question of, well, if you're going to start taking a judge off cases because you do not trust his judgment, does it make sense for him to be a judge?
Well, yes, but then it's a fair question to ask, but getting a judge recalled is incredibly difficult and expensive. So someone would have to make it their mission. Essentially some rich person would have to make it their mission.
There's a Stanford professor that's working on that right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like the idea that a rich person could get a judge recall. I don't. Like, I'd rather criticize Aaron Persky vehemently. I'd rather raise awareness and drive home to him that when somebody is convicted of the kind of sexual assault that Brock Turner was, and the prosecutors asked for 14 years, right? Or he could have gotten 14. The prosecutors asked for 6. You don't give 6 months knowing full well that he'll be out in 3 months. You know, you want to give 3 years? I guess what? People would have been mad, but we wouldn't be doing the story now.
No, we wouldn't.
And so, because then he would have gone to prison, he would have gone to state prison, and he would have served more, and he would have served closer to the full length time, as opposed to now this nonsense county jail rules, which he's going to be under. But the idea that we're going to recall a judge just because we didn't like one of his decisions, that, you know, I'm hesitant to use the phrase slippery slope, but I don't like that'll come back to bite us.
But it's not just about one decision. I think that this one decision, in a case involving a violent act, kind of gives you a sense of his thinking and his lack of judgment.
I agree, and talking about the unsuitability of Judge Persky is a totally valid conversation, and one where we're all in agreement that he gave a crazy sentence, and the notion that a poorly represented or underrepresented, because public defenders frequently are quite good, but they're overwhelmed, but an underrepresented defendant who was black or Latino would have been given the same leniency is insane, and we all can't say that.
And it's not just, it's not just the sentence. I want to just remind everyone his reasoning for the short sentence, which was prison would have a severe impact on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because it has, but you never take that into account with other defendants. You just don't.
Exactly.
But it's like, here's a kid who looks like he could be my kid.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, it'll be particularly tough on him.
To that point, I would say, look, obviously the judge should bear most of our ill will, other than the guy, probably him too. And we should question his judgment. And I would say, at the very least, I don't know if they do like shadowing amongst judges, but there should be somebody like watching his judgments. Like, start a blog, and just every time he makes a judgment, let's report on what the sentence was. See over time if there's a pattern. But I think that the media also Like, some people should either temporarily be suspended or something with the way that they report on these crimes. When they insist on only showing pictures of, like, smiling pictures of them, like, in a full suit for certain types of defendants, and then for others, they look for a mugshot, and then they make them look as rough and as dangerous as they can.
They look for other...
That matters.
Yeah, they look for other issues in their past, whether they've ever had marijuana or got caught smoking it, right?
In this particular guy's case, they literally not only kept talking about the fact that he was a swimmer, which, by the way, maybe this is wrong. If you swim, I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck if anybody's a swimmer. I don't care if you're as a student, you're a swimmer, okay? I don't care if you were in the fencing club for like a month like I was. It doesn't matter what your a little bit. But your extracurriculars don't matter. They literally put his swimming times, like his lap times, in articles. He's a rapist.
That's his. That was the great thing that the victim she wrote about. Her statement. Yeah, that was such a great little line there. That whatever by the third paragraph was included his swim times. Yeah,
amazing.
But again, I hear you, and I refuse to get pigeonholed into be the guy defending Judge Persky because I'm not. But I am uncomfortable with it. It takes 70,000 signatures. Like, this is a thing that costs money, so it's great that the Stanford professor is working on it. But it takes time and effort to get somebody recalled, and the easiest way to do it would be to have Charles Koch do it, pay for it, so that you can get the 70,000. And if it starts, because that'll work against justice more often than it works for justice. Is my fear. The terrible thing is that he just got, again, it's our inability to, our lack of interest in local politics, in municipal politics in this country in general, which has allowed sort of the right wing to take over state legislature after state legislature. Not that this guy's some right winger, I don't know anything about his politics. He sounds like an idiot, bro. But this guy was running unopposed. Nobody ran against him. There's not, if in a year he was up next year, then by all means, let's go out, let's get somebody to run against him, let's beat him. That's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, he's not up again for 6 years. So I would say continue to ridicule him, maybe he'll resign.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that would be good. I mean, it's just, I think about stories like this, kind of in our world and how things would go if we were accused of doing something terribly in our job, right? So let's say John, for instance, is like a disaster when it comes to reporting policy news, right? You're not. I'm just using you as I'm going to use myself. I'm a disaster.
I like this example.
Okay. All right, let's go back to John. Yeah. All right, so John can't report on policy. He gets the facts wrong. Right. He mixes up representatives that are endorsing different things. And it's just a nightmare, right? And so every time he does a policy story, everyone at TYT gets punished because the audience gets angry, members drop out, and it's like, this is a fucking horrendous show, right? And then we decide, you know what? John's really bad at reporting on policy stories. But, whatever. We're just going to let him slide. And we just won't have him do policy stories. But that's what his job entails. He's supposed to cover those types of stories. Like to say, you know what? This judge made one really, I don't know, he might have made other bad rulings, but he made a terrible ruling that got a lot of bad attention, right? All right, we're just going to take him off these cases. But he's a judge. He's supposed to rule in these cases, right? Yeah. And so it's just give him a pass, really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, yeah. I hear you. It should, and he should get criticized. Yeah. And John is terrible at policy stories. That's what I hear.
I like to think that I have an attention to detail that is quite admirable from my point of view.
All right,
I hope that people are going back through his past decisions and sentences. I assume that people are doing that.
I hope so. All right, let's move on to more tragic news in Orlando. Authorities in Orlando recovered the body of a 2-year-old who was dragged into a man-made body of water at a Disney World resort and unfortunately drowned to death. Now, the child's body was intact, but of course he did not survive this attack by an alligator. So a 2-year-old child went missing in Orlando after the toddler was dragged into the lake by an alligator near Walt Disney World's Grand Floridian Hotel. Now, this specifically happened at the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, and it's supposed to be, one of the many resorts at Disney World. The alligator dragged the child into the artificial Seven Seas Lagoon at around 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday night, and authorities weren't able to recover the body until about Wednesday morning. It's a tragic story. Apparently, there was a movie shown at this like man-made beach area where the resort is, and the child was near the water, like on the white sandy beach area, and that was when the alligator attacked him and dragged him into the water. At that point, the father saw what was happening and tried to grab his son and rescue him, but wasn't able to do so. This has never happened at Disney World. Again, this is a man-made body of water. As you guys know, in Florida, there's a huge alligator population, so it's not rare to see alligators, but it's certainly rare for alligator attacks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel terrible for the family. The Florida resort did not have signage warning of alligators in the water, and the company will thoroughly review the situation for the future. So far, they've euthanized 5 alligators. So, I would
at least move them. Don't have them in that body of water.
What I don't understand is, I don't think they put the alligators in that body of water. That would be a disastrous idea.
Yeah, I'm sure they just found it.
Yeah. So, during their search effort, they found these alligators, and they know that they pose a threat, and that's why they euthanized them.
I thought they did. There was a sign that said you don't swim.
Don't swim, but it doesn't say anything about alligators.
Alligators coming up out of the water and onto the beach.
Yeah, and I have to be completely honest, I would not in a million years expect alligators. And I've been to Disney World. I wouldn't expect alligators in that body of water, because what goes through your mind is, this is an artificial, man-made body of water. There aren't going to be any, there might be some fish or something, right? But you just don't expect alligators. And
there's no man-eating creatures.
Either. Yeah, exactly.
We've covered a lot of horrifying stories on the Young Turks, but this might be one of the most personally horrifying. Not in the look, coming right after Orlando. Obviously, the scope of that tragedy is 49 times larger. But I don't have any kids. I can't imagine a worse memory to have. Like trying to save the child and being unable.
The mother went in too.
Yeah, the mother did.
The mother as well. Yeah. Okay, I hadn't read that, but that's. I mean, obviously, alligators are incredibly strong. This thing is between 4 and 7 feet long. Just absolutely horrific.
I read the story last night, shortly after it happened. I saw it on Twitter, and I had 2 nightmares about it. Yeah, they hadn't recovered. But it's hideous. I didn't even know the part until today about the father going after it. But just they're all there. They're watching a movie. And again, I mean, like with the Cincinnati Zoo, I don't know whether there's a condemnation of these parents.
I haven't seen it.
I hope not, but I didn't like that condemnation either, because guess what? You're at a zoo and you can lose your kid for a second. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And that woman in Cincinnati had 4 kids, right? And so, she went under a thing. And here you think, like Anna said, you're watching a movie and you glance over, like he's not in the water. The kids too can understand, like, don't go in the water. He's probably afraid of the water, so he doesn't go in. And then it's whatever. It's hideous. And for these 3 stories, I mean, just again, this is meaningless, but my God, all of a sudden these are like 3 giant stories. In a normal week in Orlando, they would on the news. This is all they'd talk about. Yeah, the story of the 2-year-old at Disney World getting taken by an alligator. And it's obviously, particularly given that in Orlando now, we're like, well, comparatively, it doesn't rate, right?
Except on
but it's hideous, level. And it's incredibly emotional level, and it's a sickening, awful feeling, and there's nothing good to say about it.
Yeah, and look, I don't want, this is a tragic story, obviously, but I don't want it to lead to any fear-mongering. Again, this is a very rare occurrence. Alligator attacks, in general, are a very rare occurrence. But it's never happened at Disney World. So
yeah, and they cite that they have 20 million visitors last year.
Yeah. So. I actually have some statistics on alligator attacks. So since 1948, 384 people in Florida have suffered from alligator bites. 23 of those attacks were fatal. So again, that's extremely rare, and I don't want anyone to say, oh, I'm never going to go to Disney World or whatever. I don't care if you go or not. I'm just saying this isn't something that typically happens. It's just an extremely rare.
How do they not? I mean, God, don't. I mean, it's so simple, and I get it. It's so simple that it must not be simple. What? Don't have alligators in your in their like. They're
just everywhere in Florida, which is why I'm wondering if it was something that just happened without the people at the park.
I've heard myths about going through pipes and stuff. Obviously, they pipe in a large amount of water. I mean, God knows what could have happened.
Yeah, who knows how they got there? And obviously, I assume if they could get the alligators out, they would. Disney is not interested in having alligators in their lagoons. But man, I don't get them out. I don't know how you do it. It must be impossible. It's probably really hard to do.
Yeah.
My final thought on this. One of the reasons I think this is particularly striking. First of all, anytime I love that they recovered the body because I'm sure that for the family, that is something at the very least.
Closure.
But we have this idea that we have conquered everything, and it's ours now. We put cement over it, and we make fake beaches, and it's all ours. We got this on lockdown. There's no birds we have to worry about. We go into the woods. We don't fear animals there. When an animal attacks, that's what makes it so shocking. Is that we believe that we've conquered all of this, and in some cases we haven't.
Yeah, I mean, we moved to where the alligators lived. I mean, they lived there first. Again, I don't care if every alligator in Florida is killed. I'm indifferent to that. In fact, today I'm in favor. I'd love it. Like if there were a weapon that would destroy all the alligators in Florida, I would use it.
One trigger and kills all the alligators. I'm sure there are alligator rights activists.
I'm sure there are, and they might be right, but they're not right today. Okay, so.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, a great update on net neutrality, so stick around.
I do a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. My name is Dave. I'm going to tell you some amazing facts. There was one woman in the elevator who was wide open, and here I am, now scrambling to repair a posting. Oh, you got a great relation. Good. Enjoy.
Okay, fine. It's going to be a nice fucking middle finger to that.
You especially are so trippy.
More boring, less handsome version of Jack.
Only so many ways you can cook a steak, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you want some fucking tuna.
Maybe edit that out.
I thought it was a little embarrassing, but if people like it, I'll do it.
Who is hotter? Jen is macho.
There aren't going to be rose petals on the side of the runner. Why am I there?
It was the best Valentine's Day I've ever had.
Oh, how could someone not be attracted?
I don't know what you say.
Thanks for being members for being patient with me in this post-game show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's always these weird cream cheese options. I can never just find the plain. What about salmon? Do I look like a grizzly bear? Here, try this veggie. Where's the plain? Where is it? You're more of a grape drink kind of guy, right? Or try this mouthwash. Where's the plain? Do you like sexual healing? Where is the plane? Where's the plane? Where's the plane? Where is it? Where's the plane? Dude. Anna Raspberry. No, I want the plane. Supervisor! Aren't you the supervisor? Isn't the whole point of being supervisor? Why do you get to decide my cream cheese options? At what point did you decide there'd be no plain cream cheese? I don't understand. Take it easy, man. No, this is true just like with politics and anything else. If we don't stand up for ourselves, they're just going to fuck us even harder. You're not going to believe this. They kicked me out of the kitchen. I got my eyes on me.
Hey guys, welcome back to TYT. I'm going to read some TYT lives for you in just a second, but I have a few important announcements to make. Announcement number 1 is it's Wednesday, so for our members, we will have a TYT Classic segment where we show a an old school clip of TYT. Since Ben's here, we're going to show an old school clip of Ben.
I like that you're like number one. I thought your announcement was just going to end. Announcement number one is that it's Wednesday. I was like, not a great announcement. Yeah.
Every Wednesday we film a TYT Classics, and it's fun. I love the video we chose for the members today. So we will have our regular post-game show. We will have a TYT Classics segment. And then also for our members, I just wanted to make a quick announcement about the free shirts that you guys get. We've designed members only shirts, which are really cool. I'm going to wear it every Friday. For international members, we're having some shipping issues, and I just want to ask you guys to be patient. You're going to get the shirt. I know that there's some technical difficulty with the website. We are working on it, okay? So Jenny is the nicest, sweetest person ever who does customer service for members, and she's getting all of these angry emails, and I feel like it's my fault. So please don't send her angry emails. We're working on it.
She's very nice. I can attest to that.
I feel bad. I'm like, oh my god, these member T-shirts were my idea. I wanted to give the members a free shirt to thank them, and now I'm like, was that a bad idea? Please don't be angry. We're working on it. I promise. Okay, so sit tight. I promise you will get your shirt. The only thing you have to pay for is the cost of shipping. That's it. So sit tight. So there's that. And then, do you guys have anything to say? I feel like I cut someone off.
It anyway.
I have a quick announcement. Tomorrow,
reference to the Wednesday.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Wondering what day it is.
Catch that? Okay, good. So, and just as a follow-up to that, the weekend will start on Saturday.
As previously said.
All right, I know.
No change there. There were some rumors that it was going to start at a different date. It's going to go ahead.
Listen, I was the original Rebecca Black, and then she had to come out with that song, and I was like, bitch, I'm the one who knows the days of the week.
And to the people, here's an announcement about the weekend. What are the days of the weekend? Not a trick question.
Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday is the weekend, so the week starts on Monday. Not Sunday.
In America.
It starts on Monday everywhere because everywhere
it starts on Sunday.
Yeah, but Saturday and Sunday are still the weekend. It's time to change. The week starts Monday. Obviously, Sunday is the end of the week. I don't know how to be any clearer about that. I don't even know why it's an argument. It's like assault rifles. We should ban them, and the weekend is Saturday and Sunday.
Much more importantly, the weekend should not be Saturday and Sunday. The weekend should be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Demand a 3-day weekend. We fought for it, goddammit.
Okay.
That.
All right. So, Mother of Bones says, thank you for covering this fairly. I've been sickened by all the comments of people blaming the parents from Nebraska. I actually haven't seen a lot of blame.
I've never heard anybody blame. That was really late, maybe.
Maybe it was.
But you're at a resort. You're literally your room's right there.
You keep your kid up late when you're on vacation. You're watching a movie and you're on the lagoon.
Don't blame the kid.
And Annie says there's no way they can keep track of every alligator that wanders onto such a large resort. All we can do is be mindful. Yeah. I highly doubt that they put the alligators there. That would be a terrible business move.
Hey, we're running out of alligators.
Can't one of your friends develop an app that just kills all the alligators?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, I mean, dorks.
The See You Later alligator app?
Let's not talk about that. Anyway, the final thing I want to say, some people are saying, well, everybody was all up in arms that they shot Harambe the gorilla, but now we've euthanized 5 alligators and nobody cares. Yeah, because there's substantial differences between alligators and crocodiles. One's a higher order primate who has closer kind of consciousness as humans do.
And one was
alligators are
one was in a zoo. One was in where we were responsible for him.
And one hadn't literally killed the kid. So that's a significant difference.
Yeah, in both cases, human life is more important. And people get mad at me for saying that, but I don't care.
And there's also the possibility that we didn't euthanize the alligator that got the kid. Which is...
Yeah, that's true. The authorities have no idea which alligator it was, so that alligator could still be alive. All right, let's move on to other news. This one?
No,
okay. This is a good story. We have some good news for you guys today. All right. A federal court has ruled that net neutrality will continue to be protected. In fact, according to the New York Times, the 2-1 decision from a 3-judge panel of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on Tuesday came in a case about rules applying to a doctrine known as net neutrality, which prohibit broadband companies from blocking or slowing the delivery of internet content to consumers. Now, the decision and this is really important, affirm the government's view that broadband is as essential as the phone and power and should be available to all Americans rather than a luxury that does not need close government supervision. So essentially what this does is it is another ruling that protects net neutrality. That means that your internet service providers can't make decisions as to which websites they can slow down or which websites they can speed up. So the argument is, well, if there is a giant like, let's say, Google, YouTube, Netflix, they would have the funding necessary to ensure that they get faster speeds for their consumers. But what if you're a startup company and you have this great business idea, but you don't have the resources to pay off these internet service providers for the faster internet?
Yeah.
It's a disastrous idea to get rid of net neutrality, and thankfully this ruling protects it. However, some of these huge telecom companies like Verizon and AT&T are planning on taking this fight to the Supreme Court. So that's another thing that you should keep in mind when it comes to this election, because whoever gets elected gets to decide who,
if we actually have this continuing.
Yes, if we have this continuing.
If the Supreme Court hears the case, well, first I think they would hear for the full DC circuit first. But again, it's telecom companies because it's a chance to make a ton of money. It's a chance for your broadband provider to say, hey, you want the fastest level of connection? Pay us $6 million a month.
Which, by the way, definitely will not be faster than what you're getting right now.
Yeah.
It'll be, this is the fastest. We can strangle you. Of
course, I assume it's going to get faster and faster and faster as the technology gets better, but it doesn't matter. You can't, the playing field, of course it has to be equal. I mean, imagine if you'd done it with phones. That, no, you can't, you can only, that the fanciest companies in the world, they get to make all the calls they want, but you can't make long-distance calls during the day.
20 minutes.
It takes 20 minutes to play.
Yeah, well, and also there's the speed thing. There's also, theoretically, you could, for various reasons, you can make sites slower just because, politically, I don't agree with them.
Political reasons, exactly.
Like that. The one thing I disagree with them, though, and I don't think this is controversial, it's not as essential as the phone and power. It is way, way, way more essential than the phone. If I lost my phone, I wouldn't even realize
I don't know my number.
I do know my number. No. But it's so much more essential. It's the most essential thing.
No, but let's be clear about one thing. Like, I do a lot of research on my smartphone, right? Like, I'll decide, hey, you know what? I don't want to be at my desk for lunch. I want to go out to lunch on my own and do some research, while I'm eating. And I do a lot of research on my smartphone. Yeah. But you want to know what I do the least on my phone? Make phone calls.
That's what I meant when I meant phone. The phone service. Actual phones are important.
Exactly. Like, I hate when I have to be on the phone.
Oh, I hate it.
Like phone conferences, phone calls, I despise them. So,
I wish that my phone literally couldn't make phone calls. I wish that they would
stop. Yeah, if that service was available, it would be great.
That's why I fear the day that you people leave this great country.
Phone calls are the worst thing.
I mean, like, nobody wants to be on a conference, but I mean, I would much rather talk to someone than exchange emails.
I agree with you there, but I would rather text message to both of them. And not only is the internet more important than phone service, I think it's more important than power. If you didn't literally need power to have the internet and you had to choose between the two, I would choose the internet and I would figure out something with fire.
No, you need power for so many things that you use on a daily basis.
Yeah, most of those things connect to the internet. I would rather have the internet than power. I don't know how that would work. I'm saying power outside of internet powering. I would choose internet.
Says the guy of white privilege who doesn't have a dialysis machine.
Damn.
Okay,
obviously you need power.
Yes, okay, you need power. I'm saying if I were to choose.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I think we're missing the point. This.
Oh, now you're going to the subject. Okay.
Ann and I are missing.
Wrong time and place.
We're the ones that didn't really think our arguments through.
I understood it was just a stupid argument when I was making it. Don't worry. Yes. This did not have to go this way.
That's right.
And this is, again, a reminder that, look, Obama has been criticized a lot by us. We criticize Obama a lot. But God knows if Mitt Romney had been president, or if John McCain had been president. I don't know John McCain's position on net neutrality, but I have a feeling that Mitt Romney would have been a little bit more sympathetic towards the desires of corporations. These things matter in so many different ways, because we need this protection, not just for the politics of, the fact that we're a political show, but but everybody relies on fast, reliable connections to various services, whether it's their bank or if it's Netflix. And you can't fuck with that, but there are people who would fuck with that if they had a chance.
Yeah, no question, it makes a difference. And this was a decision in a 2-1 decision at the D.C. Circuit. So the decision might have gone the same way if there had been a different president, but the administration might have come down on the other side. There might have been the
FCC's position.
Right, the Romney administration, the FCC could have argued the other way, allowing these companies to do it. It might have made a significant difference. The weight, the power of the presidency, how we say, makes a difference. And the guy's not always as progressive as we'd like, but sometimes he is.
Yeah, he's aight.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
All right, so that's some good news, though, guys. So let's celebrate a little bit of good news today. And now we move on to some controversial.
And just thanks really quick to members of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. Al Franken, who Cenk has always said, Al Franken has been active and has been fighting the net neutrality fight for years and years and years. This is good work by him and a great win.
Yes.
Right. A woman at a Connecticut Target was breastfeeding her child when she was verbally attacked by a man who thought that the action was disgusting. In fact, the angry man said that her breastfeeding her child was disgusting and that she was a whore. Let me give you the exact comment. This is according to the Huffington Post. How are you a whore by breastfeeding your child?
Well, if it's yours, I mean, you've been having sex, at the very least.
Okay, well,
that does not make you a whore.
We're going to show you a video of some of the altercation, and you can see very clearly in the video that that man is not having sex. So maybe that's where his resentment is coming from. But nonetheless, a man who was purchasing food looked at her angrily and said, "Can you do that somewhere else? That's fucking disgusting." He also called her a whore. Now, she posted a video of some of the exchange on Facebook, and she prefaced it by saying, before the video started rolling, he looked at me and said very angrily, "Can't you do that somewhere else? That's fucking disgusting. You are nasty." I responded with, "I'm feeding my baby and I have the right to do it here. Walk the fuck away. Leave me the fuck alone." He responded, as he's walking closer and closer to me and getting louder, "You are fucking disgusting. You are fucking disgusting. You are fucking disgusting, you whore." Okay, so at this point, we're going to show you the video, and it seems like he was a little more subdued because there were employees and people at Target who came to her defense, which is awesome. So take a look.
Because I'm feeding my baby. This man is going crazy, and I'm shaking.
I was gonna, and before I'd seen the video, here's what I should do less talk. Because at first I was gonna be, look, if you're shopping, I get it, you get to, but if you're like, I imagined it in my head without knowing the full details that she was in the aisles, right? And which is her right, but most people would think to go somewhere vaguely private, but she did. She went into the delicious restaurant at Target. So I mean, there are customers all over. Like, she clearly found an area that was moderately private, and her baby needed to be fed then. And
it's literally a place for eating.
It's a place. She went to the restaurant. The baby's eating, and I get it. And she could. And I would never. I mean, and you get to do it in the aisles if you want to. God bless. But that when you do it in the aisles, some people are going to be like, "Hey, come on." Right. Yeah. But of course, the only negative response you could give to someone who was breastfeeding their child in the aisle in front of everyone is to yourself, "Wait, come on." That's it. That's all you're entitled to in America is a private, "Wait, come on," and you can call a friend afterwards.
And then say, "Wait, come on."
Like, come on. That's all you get. But when she makes an effort to go to the restaurant and sit, and then he's an insane person. He looks like he's about 6 months pregnant too. So
yeah, he's disgusting, and it's just everything about that guy creeps me out. Okay, the fact that he was so bothered by that, like the way he was acting, how violent he was. He got kicked out later, and verbally violent. He didn't lay a hand on anyone, so I want to be clear about that. But I think on any given day, we all come across things that might make us feel a little uncomfortable, right? So if he was a little uncomfortable by it, fine, you're a weirdo and you haven't gotten laid in 10 years, so maybe seeing a bare breast freaks you out, right?
Not bare. It doesn't take 10 years.
It's not even a bare breast, you're right. You don't really see much. She's breastfeeding her child. But, I mean, so what are we supposed to, every time we see something that makes us uncomfortable, we have to attack the person, acknowledge it, attack the person, and then just, like, harp on it?
Well, look, I can say I haven't been around hundreds of women who are breastfeeding. I've been around a certain number, and just as a guy who hasn't been around a lot, it can be a little bit awkward because you don't want to shame the person by, like, looking away totally, but you can't look at them because they are still somewhat exposed. And I realize that at that point in their life, they don't care about that. I understand that, but you're still not used to it. But we do have to get used to this. I remember an old episode from, like, 91 of Married with Children where they had this big standoff over breastfeeding in Al's shoe store. It was decades ago, so I shouldn't be familiar with it. But I am, and we're still fighting those battles. But I do think this has nothing to do with breastfeeding. It doesn't have anything to do with a baby eating, because if you had taken the breast away and put a bottle there, no one would care.
Yeah.
It just has to do with breasts. And so we can solve this problem by solving the problem our culture has with exposed female breasts. Free the nipple, get over it, don't care anymore, and once you've seen them in every other context, the eating aspect doesn't matter.
Yeah, Europeans see them all the time. They don't have sex anymore.
Exactly.
I think I got it early on. I mean, I accident. You're entitled to say, hey, come on. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you get.
Yeah, that's what I say when I see Jake wearing a t-shirt with a blazer over it every Friday. It makes me uncomfortable, but I'm not going to walk up to him and call him a whore. You know? Yeah. It's just a really bad fashion faux pas.
Yeah, look, a blazer and a t-shirt is always a fashion faux pas?
Not for you. It is for Jake.
Why for Jake?
Because Jake doesn't have blazers that fit properly. So a ill-fitting blazer on top of a TYT shirt is just a recipe for disaster.
Or t-shirts that fit properly.
Yeah. I love
He's not here to defend himself.
Wow.
He's the baby in this breastfeeding story.
Remember when Anna called Cenk fat and a whore in like a 15-second period?
I did not know that.
Wow, that was amazing. Jesus.
You know, we all come across things that make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just trying to draw parallels here.
Wait.
Oh, come on. That's what I
I'm going to do this. I'm going to show support.
All right. We got time for one more?
Yeah, we do.
I want to do this Pornhub story, so let's do that. All right. Pornhub is attempting to make pornography more accessible to those who are blind. In fact, there are 285 million people in the world who are blind, and some of them are not able to enjoy pornography as a result of that. So Pornhub has come up with an idea where they will have a female narrating and explaining the porn so the blind consumer will understand what's going on. Now, here is an example. It's a safe for work example of what they're doing. And so far, they have about 60 videos available for blind individuals to listen to. Take a look.
We move to an interview where we see a teen girl from the waist up sitting in a bright white room, cut to a side shot inside the cab, and a girl gets in, black hair, lots of makeup, and squeezing a nice curvy figure into a tight blue dress. The video begins with a small Latina with dirty blonde hair lying face down on a massage table with nothing but a small towel covering her. She's on her hands and knees, her back pleasantly arched. Her butt points up and out. We cut to a POV of a guy looking at a hot teen lying on the bed on her belly. The video opens with a young white girl. She puts a piece of equipment back on a shelf, then tiptoes around the corner.
A young Latina.
Okay, so I like that they're trying to cater to a community that might not feel included in something as popular as pornography, right? Like, I think it's actually a really sweet thing for them to do. Because, whatever. But at the same time, I'm really curious as to whether or not it distracts the porn consumer or if it actually adds to the experience, right?
I don't know about them, but it adds to the experience for me.
It did? You like
why not? First of all, they're choosing specifically women with attractive voices. So that now becomes a part of the pornography.
Her delivery, though, sounds like one of those, that woman on Silicon Valley, the investor who's very...
it's a bit robotic.
Yeah, it's a little robotic.
Which means that you would have to be sort of into robots to be interested in this.
Which is why you're into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think that... I love... One of the examples they give is a white woman in a cheap-looking red power suit. I love it. If they're really accurate about what they're seeing with some of these people, when you do the close-up shots, they're going to have to describe some grisly shit.
Oh, I did, literally, in some cases.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But at one point, though, the blind do have access to some porn. They can read pornography. I'm sure that there's some sort of equivalent of Braille for pictures and things like that. And they can certainly listen to it.
Yeah.
It's just that videos have been denied them up until now.
Yeah, and look, the visuals are important. And what I mean by that is when you describe what's happening, then it's easier for them to picture what's happening in the porn along with the moaning and grunting and whatever else you hear.
What else do you hear?
I don't know, sometimes dirty talk porn is the best. I feel like that's an underserved market. How come I don't find enough
dirty talk porn is the best? Oh, the dirty talk in porn I find to be absolutely revolting most of the time.
No, I love it.
Oh God, the things they say.
I don't know, maybe you're watching different porn than me, but like everyone...
different porn than I.
We're talking about porn!
Look at her speaking so casually.
I obviously, your life changes as you get older, and in addition to the button that would kill all alligators, you have to be 21, and you cannot portray anyone younger than 21 in pornography. The degree of revulsion that I feel at the word teen when she said that is super strong.
That girl I think was over 21.
It doesn't matter. I don't like it doesn't service. It does not.
Okay, but what about an 18-year-old who wants to watch porn? You got a young 18-year-old lesbian who wants to watch porn. She would probably like to see girls like her. Oh yeah, you didn't think about them, did you?
She's gonna have to wait 3 years to. She'll be okay. It's just whatever. And
my guess is it's not 18-year-old lesbians looking for teen porn. My guess
could
is
be.
It's a different
you don't know. I will say though, I think that Pornhub loves to release their data afterward. They make these charts and infographics, and we cover every single one of them on Think Tank. But anyway, I think in the end, 99% of the uses of the service will be from people who can see perfectly fine.
Probably, whatever. But their heart is in the right place, so good for them.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that does it for the second hour. Members, we will not only have a post-game show for you guys today, but we are also going to do a TYT Classics. If you're not a member, you can join by going to tytnetwork.com/join. Special thanks to John and Ben for doing the second hour with me.
Oh, not just thanks. Special thanks.
All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.